Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name's Thomas. This is Zarbo Audio Projects and Tom's Toolbox. Haven't quite got figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but have you ever made a mistake? I make them all the time, and I think I probably made one last week. I put out a video about this Harbor Freight Tools Hercules 4.5 inch cordless circular saw. And in the video, I basically said that it was a pretty good tool. I liked it. However, I did have some issues cutting a few boards, which ended up looking a little bit like this. So one of the things that I see that's happening is as I cut through this, since this is a small piece, part of it breaks off. And then at that point, the blade guard kind of gets snagged and doesn't want to go any further. So I've had that hang up a few times. So yeah, some issues there, but basically I think it was operator error. I mentioned in the video that it might be operator error, and turns out it was. Well, a couple of folks mentioned to me, John Audio Tech being one of them, mentioned that, he was taught that when you're cutting a board, you should have the saw blade should only extend about 1/4 inch past the bottom of the board that you were cutting. Which is a sort of rule of thumb that he had been taught. And a couple other folks mentioned the same thing. Mentioned that this guard might not hang up nearly as bad if you had adjusted the depth of cut a lot closer to the actual thickness of the board. I had it adjusted pretty large to cut 2x4s and 3/4 inch material and stuff like that. Now, I took a lot of videos of cuts, and I did adjust it different ways, and it did hang up here and there. But in the interest of fairness, I wanted to kind of amend this video and sort of correct a few things. Well, first of all, what I was taught and what you were taught growing up about how to use maybe a saw like this, well, this didn't probably exist, but any circular saw, as far as depth of cut, none of that really matters. What matters is what the manufacturer publishes in the instruction manual. So this Hercules tool comes with an instruction manual, and there are a lot of instructions in here. It's full of stuff. It goes all the way up to number 9, but the one I'm interested in, sorry for the crinkling noise, the one I'm interested in is Section 6, Subsection C, adjusting the cutting depth to the thickness of the workpiece. And it says, and I quote, "Less than a full tooth of the blade teeth should be visible below the workpiece." Less than a full tooth. Okay, so let's take a peek at this thing here. Let's get this down. Now I'm going to show you here. This part here, this hollowed out part, that is not the tooth. That's just part of the structure of the blade. The tooth is this carbide cutting piece here. That is the tooth. So let's see how deep that tooth actually is. It is just about exactly 1, 2, 3/16, just under 5 millimeters. Okay, 3/16 or about 5 millimeters. And it says, less than a full tooth of the blade teeth should be visible below the workpiece. Less than a full tooth. I would have to have this adjusted such that less than a full blade tooth would be visible. This is extraordinarily awkward to do. All right, I got it adjusted. Less than a full blade tooth should be visible. So in the case of cutting something like this, you're going to have essentially that much of the blade showing. I don't know how good of a view that is, but I'm going to be honest with you. That is not a lot. And if you're cutting thinner materials, you're actually going to have to sit there and go like this and hold it up to it. Probably take the battery out if you're smart and adjust this. That's to me, that's a little fiddly, but it doesn't matter. That's what the instructions say, so that's how they want the tool to be operated. I don't think most guys are going to necessarily do that, but that's what the tool instructions say, so that's how it should be used. So in light of that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the intro play to the original video that I created, and I'm going to cut it in the middle. And if you don't want to watch all that stuff again, if you already watched the video, I'll put a timestamp up there that you can just go fast forward to get to the new cuts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some cuts with this fence adjusted to the correct depth of cut. I'm going to do a few with one hand, and I'm going to do a few with 2 hands, and then we're going to see how it works and if we had any of the same problems. I suspect we probably won't, but we'll have to wait and see. And then I'll go back to the original video, and then I'm going to addend the conclusion of the original video as well. So there'll be some new stuff. If you haven't watched it, though, just watch the whole thing, and you'll kind of see what I mean. Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name's Thomas. This is Zarbo Audio Projects, and today we're doing the Tom's Toolbox thing because we're going to take a peek at this. It's the Harbor Freight Tools Hercules cordless 4.5 inch circular saw. That's a lot of words. Let's get it open and see what it comes with. I wonder what's in here. Maybe it's a blade. It's a blade. Let's see what kind of blade it is. 24 teeth, 4.5 inch. Now, recently, 3-4 months ago, in anticipation of this tool coming out, I purchased this, which is a 36 tooth. This one's a little nicer. But this still looks pretty decent. We'll give it a try. All right, we got our instruction manual. And in with the instruction manual is, looks like a little dust collection device attachment. We'll see what that's about. Let's get the tool out. Now, this is the first time I've touched it. They didn't have any on display there. Like I said, they only had 3 in the box. So I haven't actually felt what this thing feels like yet. Okay, well, first off the bat, it feels pretty nice. Fits my hand fairly well. You can't accidentally hit the trigger. You have to fiddle with this thing. Press it down, and you can pull the trigger. Or if you're that-handed, press it down, pull the trigger. And it doesn't seem like there's any way to lock it. You probably wouldn't want to anyway. So anyway, pretty small. Now, the Bauer version of this has been out for some time, but for some reason I picked up the Hercules version of the cordless battery-powered stuff when I was picking. That's just what I picked, so I had to wait longer for this. I'm planning on cutting speaker cabinet sides when I put curves on speaker cabinets. This is what I'm planning on using to trim those. I've used a saber saw in the past, and sometimes if you're not careful, this can happen. And even if you are careful, that can happen. A circular saw blade is very rigid. It isn't going to bend. A saber saw blade can kind of bend all over the place, even depending on how you twist it. So I think this is going to be a good way to allow me to get really precise cuts that don't bend or twist or do anything they're not supposed to. Has a fence. It has an adjustable depth here. It has some markings for how deep the cut would be. How accurate they are, I don't know. This looks like this is the adjustment for the miter. Yeah. Okay. Feels pretty sturdy. This here is the blade guard. It's like a plastic blade guard. Interesting. Has a positive, well, not detent, but the end of the travel gets you what looks like 90 degrees, so that's good. These thinner metal things, I'm always a little skeptical on how accurate they are. But give it the benefit of the doubt for now. All right, well, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. We got a little handle here to kind of guide and hold things. Let me get a blade in it. I'm going to put the blade in it that comes with it, as opposed to the higher tooth count, higher quality blade that I purchased in anticipation of this coming out. And we'll take a few cuts. Let's see what it can do. When you take the nut off of the arbor, there are 2 nuts, a big thick one and a thin one. Big one stays on, I think, and the thin one gets put on after you set the blade in. And that one has the 2 flat spots on the round. So you want to line that up with the flat spots on the arbor shaft. And then we're going to go in counterclockwise like this. And I'm going to press the arbor lock button. And we're going to go lefty-tighty. Safety glasses, battery. Let's give it a test spin up. All right, so this is maybe 1.5 feet from the microphone here. I'm going to hold it about arm's length, which might be about a yard or a little more. I'm just amazed at how quiet these tools are. These brushless tools are so quiet. And when you let off, it stops almost instantly. All right, so far so good. Well, let's get this thing and let's get over to some wood and make some cuts and see what this thing can actually do. All right, I'm ready to make some test cuts. I've got what looks like a full battery. This is the 5 amp hour battery. We're testing the Hercules 4.5 inch cordless circular saw. Let's try a piece of 3/4 inch, looks like pine. Trying to get used to the feel a little bit. Every tool has a slightly different feel to it. I'm going to draw a couple of straight lines on here and see how easy or difficult it is for me to follow those lines. Let's try a few cuts in some plywood with a thin wood veneer on both sides. Ooh, that's nice. No splintering at all with the grain. Let's try a few cuts against the grain and see how that does. Top side has a little splintering on this thin veneered plywood, but the back has very little, and I was kind of going too fast on those, so that's not too bad. I'm kind of impressed. 45-degree miter cut on 3/4 inch oak flooring. It's a nice cut. Much better. That's a nice cut. A little tough to keep it straight, but nice cut. Well, somehow I messed up the camera settings and turned it on to slow motion, which means that I lost all the audio for these cuts. But here I am cutting through a 2x6 with 2 hands, now with 1 hand. No problem. 2 hands is easier to control to make sure that the base is aligned flat to the workpiece, but I guess with a little bit of use and technique, it wouldn't be a problem with 1 hand for a lot of people. This is 3/4 inch plywood. No problem going through that either. The blade depth is adjusted correctly as per the manual, and there's no issue. The blade guard really isn't hanging up. It's working as it should and working as it's supposed to. Here's a piece of 3/4 inch oak hardwood flooring. It's going through that, no problem. Transition over to a couple of pieces of pine, 3/4 inch pine. No issues there. It did get hung up one little time. That's because the base of the saw wasn't adjusted flat. So basically, there's really no problem at all with this cutting through any of these materials. It works good. So basically, long story short, I think this is a good small format circular saw. It went through anything I threw at it. It went through 3/4 inch oak flooring, no problem at all. Plywood, MDF, a lot more than I showed you in the video clips, but also dimensional lumber, 2x4s and 2x6s. None of it was a problem for it. And I think as long as you adjust the depth of cut so that this blade guard doesn't become an issue getting hung up, I think you'll be fine. I think having it adjusted to where it's basically 1/8 of an inch or a little less protruding through the bottom of your workpiece, that's going to be hard to do, but that's how the manual specifies it. And if you do it that way, and I did it that way, I didn't have any problems at all with this thing hanging up. So I think you're going to be good to go as long as you use it according to the manual. And I don't have any reservations recommending this if you need a small saw like this. So that's it for this one. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.